to be talking about film and animation. So about us, firstly, I'm going to go over a little bit about who we are as a group. So I think most of you know that we are from 613 Frames, which is a Army Film Club account on Twitter. What all three of us have in common is that we like BTS and we like film. This is something that we do on the side. It's not necessarily a part of like the same as what we do with our work or with school. We'll go over a bit what our majors are later, but yeah, it's just something that we do for fun. And we do it to help educate people in film. So we're very excited for this opportunity to talk to you guys about the film industry, careers in film, and what it's like to be a film student. So I'll ask Zan and Aaliyah to introduce themselves first.
Hello, I'm Zan. I am also Admin Swords. So I'm a graphic designer and filmmaker based in Brooklyn, New York. I currently study communications and film with a focus in digital media and broadcasting. So I'm a key art designer and film poster designer. So I collaborate with directors and producers and oftentimes distributions to make key art and promotional assets for a specific film. And I am also a filmmaker. I've done a total of 2 very short, very teeny tiny projects. And yeah, I am with 613 Frames after someone's impulsive decision. And yeah, Uma.
Hi, I am the aforementioned person of impulsive decisions. 613 Frames was founded because I was thinking about how much I wish that I could just watch movies with Army, with all of my friends on the timeline. And then Zan got very excited after seeing that tweet, and then it just like grew from there. But hi, I'm Uma. I just graduated in May with a degree in 3D animation. I am Admin Planet Emoji. It sounds very funny saying that out loud, but I'm Admin Planet Emoji on the 613 Frames account. I currently work at an architecture firm doing 3D animation stuff. Doing like visual render, like architectural renderings at this firm. We mostly do school buildings, so we will go and take videos at these schools that we build at the sites, at the construction sites. And yeah, I basically do like animation and video work for the firm. I also, on the side, since I did graduate with like a 3D animation degree, like focused on more like storytelling and film, like animated films type things versus architectural design, I'm currently also editing a short 3D animated film and working on a independent film with my friend that is not animated, like a live action film. And yeah, that's me. Aaliyah.
Okay, hi, my name is Aaliyah. I am Admin Tula and for 0613 Frames. And right now I'm an English film major based in Los Angeles. I currently work with BAFTA for the Film Collective project, and that's been going on since 2018. It's a long one. And then I previously interned for NIFA. As of now, I enjoy making films in my bedroom. I've made like 2 so far. And I also enjoy editing in Adobe, like Premiere Pro and After Effects. So our goal for our lecture is to talk about the pipeline in film and animation and positions across the pipelines, the chronological process of a live action and 3D animated film, and how it is typically conceived, as well as the crew positions who work within the pipeline and their contributions to a film. And then also the careers outside of the pipeline, like careers in films that you can pursue outside of the pipeline and after post-productions. And then we'll also be talking about whether or not you need a degree in film and animation. And this is where we will discuss varying opinions on whether or not a degree in film and animation is necessary based on other filmmakers who pursued higher education outside of their career in film. And then we'll also be talking about college curriculum, using a pre-existing course catalog from USC School of Cinematic Arts and seeing how their system works. And then by the end, we'll have a questions and answer part of the presentation where you guys could just ask questions and we'll help you answer them.
Okay. So this is typically the film pipeline, a very simplistic version. It starts with the development stage, where this is essentially where the conceptualization stage starts. It's typically where you come up with your story's overarching theme, and it can be based on a pre-existing work or an original idea. From there, you'll create a logline, a short synopsis of the film, character biographies or character descriptions, their features or their intentions in the story or the film. And finally, you would make a script that would typically follow a 3-act structure. So the beginning, middle, and end. The positions in the developmental stage are usually the director and writer, and if you know someone else who can give you financial compensation so early in the process, then a producer as well. And next is the pre-production process, which is the process of bringing your concept and your story to fruition. And this is where you would organize your budget sheet. So this would be a list of props, costumes, your film equipment, compensation for your film crew, catering, etc., etc., etc. This would be where you'd make your shooting schedule, hire your film crew, depending on how many people you know, and exploring film equipment, camera, lighting, sound, and just trying to gather up the materials you would need essentially to make the story come to life. So yeah, pre-production essentially is just gathering up your chess pieces, while production is your game of chess. With pre-production, the positions that usually go into it are executive producers who oversee the finances of the project. You have your production accountant, someone who organizes the budget sheet, as well as crunching a more accurate number on what you would be spending. The casting director, which of course hires the actors, and the location manager, who picks the location. And this is again all to bring this project into fruition. And then is the production process, which is where you start setting up set and start shooting. The time spent in this stage in particular can vary depending on the urgency of the project. Like, for example, Parasite was in production for 124 days, while Boyhood was in production for 12 years. And as soon as the director of a project approves the footage that you've already shot, the film is officially wrapped. And then post-production, this is where the film is edited, composed, color corrected, sound mixed, and assembled. This stage is most prominent for the editor, the composer, the colorist, and people in positions of sound, visual, and special effects. So across the span of this pipeline, there are many positions that are active in either one stage or across multiple stages and across multiple departments. So if you're saying that you want to get into a career film, it's, a very broad question, because there are so many positions behind it that intersect within their fields of study. For example, finance. If you want to get into film financing, you would really want to be an executive producer, for example, someone who secures the financing and brings in potential investors for the project. And then you have the production accountants, someone who, again, manages the financial records. Or if you want to get into production, which is, being on set and just being there, there's the production assistant who usually assists everyone else in getting whatever materials they need on set. There's also the first assistant and second assistant director. Like, for example, with Life Goes On, Jungkook was the director, while Lumpins was the first assistant director. They were the ones manning the camera as, Jungkook stood in front doing the visual side of it. And if you want to do all of the above, then the director, who can oversee, conceptualize, and bring this project to fruition. So Uma is going to discuss the 3D production pipeline.
Hi. So similar to the film pipeline, 3D animation also has pre-production, production, and post-production, all of which contain so many different roles. So there's lots of different job opportunities out there. It's such a big industry. For example, I worked on a 2-minute short film, which required about 50 people working on it to make it come to life. There's so many people behind the scenes that work to put these things together, both animated and live action films. Pre-production is pretty similar to what it's like in film. Somebody gets an idea, they talk out a story, they write a script, and then one thing that's slightly different is that animation is very reliant on the storyboard, which is basically a drawn-out version of what's going to be happening. It shows the camera angles, the characters, how they're framed, and it's basically picture by picture. It goes through the project, kind of like a comic. You can think of it as kind of a comic. Then there's animatic, which is basically you put all of these storyboards together, edit them into a video, which helps you get the timing right. That's something that the editor does. And then the storyboard, there's storyboard artists. Like, you can have a job as a storyboard artist because it's so important. And as they're working on the animation, they keep updating the storyboards. So that is one of the roles. And then editor will put together the animatic. And then you go into designing the characters. That's under like a department called VizDev, Visual Development, which is basically the people who paint concept art, do character design, all of that stuff. That is also a job. You don't have to go to film school for that. You can just be an artist on the side, or go to art school, and that's something that you can do in film or animation. And then there's layout. This is where we start getting into the 3D stuff that people don't really know a lot about. So layout, R&D, modeling, texturing, like literally everything in production up until texturing they kind of overlap with each other. Layout starts taking some basic 3D models in a space and arranging them according to the storyboard. They put in the camera in the 3D space and arrange everything to look like, basically they make a shot. They select how many frames they want each shot to be. They position the camera. They set up the set. It's like imagine just putting together a tiny set in front of you, except it's in a 3D space on your computer. That's what layout does. And then R&D is research and development, basically looking to make sure that you have the right tools available, the right scripts, because some animation is very coding based. You need, like, the technical people are always there supporting with code. So research and development helps look up, like, make sure that we know what we're going to be doing, like sets the stage for the rest of it. Then modeling, they start creating sculpting the actual characters, making sure that they have a face, they have hands, legs, etc., etc. They will sculpt the trees in the background. They will make the mountains. It's kind of like, it really is just kind of like sculpting or building blocks. And then, so the layout people will then like take the models that they build, replace their like placeholder models, and then continue updating their scene with the models, and it slowly becomes like a proper like a screenshot of a film. And then texturing, I love this little picture of them painting on the bunny, because that's basically what texturing does. Texturing also actually can involve a lot of coding. because they're basically translating real world textures into different maps. They're called maps in a computer, and layering them on top of each other to create like a 3D texture that you can see. Rigging is basically where they put the joints in the characters, kind of like making a puppet. Like they'll put a joint in the elbow, in the fingers, so many joints in the face. That way the animators can then take those joints and animate them. Then it goes into VFX, which is stuff like fire, fog. That all can be done within the animation software or outside of the animation software, and then later composited on by the lighters. The lighters will, so up until now, everything's kind of just like, you can see the colors, but there's just like basic, imagine like outside, it's a cloudy day, and there is very little variation in shadow because literally everything is just overcast. That's kind of what it looks like before lighting steps in. And lighting will go into the 3D scene and place lights. So they'll create the sun. They will, they have control over all of the reflections. They will have control over, like if there's a lamp in the scene, they'll like put a little light in the lamp and control the color of it, control how it affects each object in the scene. And then, so I'm a lighting artist. I spend 2 to 3 years just focusing primarily on lighting. There's just so much that you can do within each of these things. And then the lighters typically will also, they'll render out the scenes. So that's basically the process of taking it from the 3D animation program and then taking it into a compositing software, which is something basically like Photoshop, but more complex, where you put all of the different things together so that you have more control over editing the film. They usually will take the characters on a different pass, and then the background, and then like any fog or whatever, and the VFX, and they basically put it all together in compositing. And that is also a job. Like each of these different things is something that you can study for, or something that you can specialize in and then get work in. And then there's a 2D motion graphics people who usually work in After Effects and make 2D animations over it. They'll do stuff like the beginning credits, the outro credits, any moving 2D things in the film. Then color correction, which is basically just like that. This is stuff that the editor will work on. So the editor this whole time will have been working on the animatic. Then we'll have been continuously updating the film with the new content that they receive from modeling, texturing, animation, etc., etc. And then you have the final film. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes in 3D animation, but that's kind of just an overview of the whole process and an insight on exactly how many positions and people there are, how much it takes to make film.
Okay, so there are careers outside of the pipeline that we just discussed that you could pursue as well. But there's film criticism, which is essentially writing about films you either are or aren't passionate about. It also gives the public a glimpse on what to expect from a film that is set to release. I'll make an outline to post on the Film Club account so that I'm not just spewing word vomit. But publications such as Little White Lies, the New York Times Film, Filmmaker Magazine, and Film Comment, I believe, they just have very robust, well-rounded reviews to read if film criticism is something that you see yourself doing. Then there's distributing, which is the process of making a film available to the general public. This can take the form of theatrical screenings, streaming services, press junkets, which are usually a schedule of interviews that the actors take part in, advertising locations, premiere screening events, and if the distribution has enough money, then other miscellaneous promotional events such as pop-ups and exhibitions with the intention of promoting the film. Like just recently, I had just went to a recreation of the cafe from the French Dispatch, and it was really cool and really effective in promoting the film to the general public. One thing to note, though, is that distribution does not fall under a specific genre. Say like A24, they have a really good selection of films, but if someone says that they're into A24 films, that's very much ambiguous because a lot of their films vary in different genres. It's just that they're distributed a lot more effectively because they're really good at it. And also distribution falls under finance as well. This is typically money made from the distribution, not so much out of pocket from the director or writer, producer, or anyone within the pipeline. Again, all this with the intention of getting the film out there to the right amount of people. And then there's designing for promotional use, poster design, key art, and design of just for the film's social media presence. That's a career I fall under as someone who does film advertising and key art. I would normally be contacted by the director or producer, someone in the pipeline, to work on a smaller project, but with larger scale projects, say like Marvel, you'd normally be contacted by a representative of the distribution company. So say if I did a poster for Marvel, I'm more than likely to be contacted by a representative, not the director. I worked in freelance as a junior designer, and that's typically how the run-of-the-mill process goes. And even now, being freelance on my own. So, next slide. So, do you need a degree in film and animation? If you have the connections and the social circle to ensure your place in film production, I believe you don't have to go to film school. But these connections can range from actively knowing industry professionals or having colleagues in the from the film industry, to having a simple group of friends whose end game is quote unquote making it in the industry or securing a place well enough to be considered an industry professional. Next slide. And there's this really nice quote from Barry Jenkins. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, where he states in an interview with The Guardian, when you climb the ladder, you send it back down, referring to sharing that success with a group of people in your social circle in order to ensure a collective success of the industry, or whatever that means. One where everyone is exchanging advice with one another and obtaining a level of success that would be considered great for everyone. And this is unfortunately how much of the industry works. It's knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, and just trying to be more hands-on with who you let into your circle or who you allow to teach you these things, regardless on whether they're an industry professional or not, I think is really substantial in, say, building sort of connections. Next slide. So there are also filmmakers who don't have degrees, but have obviously ensured their place in cinema and the canon of it. Bong Joon-ho majored in sociology at Yonsei University, the big three. Wes Anderson got his degree in philosophy at the University of Texas at Austin. Sam Mendes, he directed 1917, got his degree in English literature at the University of Cambridge. Same with Christopher Nolan at the University College of London. And Ethan Coen, a degree in philosophy at Princeton University. And, what these filmmakers do have in common is that they apply their varying degrees in higher education into their own creative work. So like with Bong Joon-ho majoring in sociology, a major where you're studying certain groups of people and how they interact and how they behave with one another. It can be viewed through the lens of a character dynamic. In the case of Parasite, you have the proletariat, poor Kim family and, you know, just seeing how the film unfolds based on their interactions with the Rich Park family, and just having that knowledge of social interaction, that prior knowledge of social interaction, and applying it to what is now considered to be a canon in modern day film, I think is also very much essential, and just shows that you can apply, not to repeat myself, any degree in higher education, and applying it in the right ways as you're getting into the realm of filmmaking.
Can I also emphasize that point? Sorry, I just want to emphasize that point that you don't necessarily need a degree, a film degree, to become a filmmaker or to be in the film industry, because I joined BAFTA when I was a freshman in college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do in college at that time. And the reason I joined that was because I met another mentor in an internship I was doing during the summer for NIFA, and this was literally just for fun because that mentor is someone I also met through another mentor that I was a part of. That I was a part of a film club in high school, and that's how I basically got around. You know, I had, like, again, I said I had no interest in filmmaking. I was just looking at it solely as a hobby rather than a career like I do now. And that is when I realized connections are very important in the film industry, because joining that club in high school which was very underfunded, by the way, engaging with these people who want to be or are in the film industry, it really helped me a lot in getting where I am now, and it will continue helping me in the future. So really I just wanted to emphasize that you don't need a film degree or you don't need to go to film school, because, you know, just if you do have enough resources, like for example a film club in college or in high school, wherever you are right now, I think that would take you somewhere, you know, meeting people who are also interested in the same thing you are or want to be a part of the film industry like maybe you hope to be. So yeah, I think you really don't need a film degree, but you could if you want to. I know I was you can't. But I remember, like, when I was in college, I did want to be a film major, but I ended up being an English major because I do have a joy for English and like reading and writing. So, and like I'm literally a tutor right now, and that has nothing to do with filmmaking, but I am, you know, doing stuff on the side that do have to do some with film. So
yeah, thank you, Ali.
So one of the main reasons that people like that film school is such a contentious subject among people into film is because of how expensive it is for, you know, just a chance to succeed in the industry. I mean, just with every art related subject, people, you know, there's a high risk value going into a creative field like that, especially paying money to go to school to learn these things. The pros of going to film school is obviously learning all of this content that you could maybe learn yourself, but you might not have the same resources that are available at a school. For example, equipment or mentors who have done this for years and years. Or if you're not like in a filmmaking family or in a filmmaking community, then you get access to so many people, even just your peers. Like, they will become your coworkers in the future. Networking is really important. That being said, you can also network, like Ali said, outside of school itself. For example, film clubs. I did most of my networking online, and I'm pretty sure so did Zan. Like, everyone that I've met in the film industry has been by posting my work on Twitter and just hoping for the best. And being, just being proactive at meeting people. For example, this is kind of silly, but like whenever BTS release a music video, I go look at all of the credits, and then I'll go on LinkedIn, and then I will send everybody a LinkedIn request.
Whose idea was that?
Which is something that Zan did first, and now I do that. So yeah, basically just trying to connect with as many people as possible to like wedge my way into the industry, because you never know when like you'll meet someone who could change like the path of your career. But yes, with film school, it does have a lot of pros. Mostly the curriculum, how much you can learn, just the potential for learning. So Ali is going to go over, we have an example of a film school curriculum. This is from USC.
Okay, yeah. So, like Uma said, this is a curriculum from USC, and according to USC Cinematic Arts, which is their film school, for example, the Introduction of Cinema class, their primary objective for that course is to convey a better understanding of film as a narrative medium, and they'll investigate how film content is determined by such stylistic systems as cinematography, performance, etc. And various critical methods will also be examined, including gender studies and social economics. Next slide.
Oh, sorry. I think
It's okay.
Zan wanted to say something also. Sorry, we'll go back one slide for a moment.
Okay.
Yes, Zan.
Sorry, I was muted. So I just wanted to address back to the intention with the film club, which is that we also want to bring about education. Say that if you're not really sure where the resources are, and this self-taught education can be in the form of reading books on film education, and we really want to work more on making these book recommendations. So far, we've recommended books on Korean cinema in a historical context and choreography and dance in the moving image that we recommended during our Dance Week event. Also attending film festivals that include panel discussions and Q&As with industry professionals. That's something I do very often throughout film festival season because, you don't really have, or so you're not really sure where to get this access from, and you're lucky enough to be in a city that has some sort of appreciation for film. I think spending time around these people is also very essential. And watching films in your leisure time, preferably canon films that are traditionally studied in an academic setting. So unfortunately, Citizen Kane, and unfortunately every single other Hitchcock film, because, a lot of these films are being used as general references, or if you want to be hands-on with production, just start picking up a camera, I think is very much important. And with 613 Frames, we started making celebratory film projects for each member's birthdays that varies in different themes that are emblematic of a different member. So for Namjoon, our theme was nature and cycling, and for Jimin, our theme was elegance and choreography. And now Uma's gonna discuss her schedule with 3D animation.
I love Jimin.
Okay.
So with I wanted to talk a little bit about like my curriculum, my experience. I kept a very handy spreadsheet while I was in university. So I'll just go over like the core. So like, I don't know how many of you know this because I'm not sure where you are in your education, but at college, like you get to do the fun stuff, but you also have to take the core courses like history, geography, sciences, math, etc., etc. So my freshman year, as you can see, these ones, I spend most of my time doing really basic stuff. And I first started dipping my toes into my major with a design class and computer imaging, which was basically a Photoshop class. And then I had to do basic computer science because I started out as a computer science major, realized I was unhappy, and then switched to a creative field. Which, that's another thing. If something makes you unhappy, don't do it. I could have worded that better. But basically, even though I was aware of like the risk going into a creative field, it just made me so happy the next 3 years that I would not change it. I wouldn't go back. Then there's basic stuff like I had drawing classes, I had project management. So they kind of wanted us to get familiar with every side of animation. So I had project management class, which helped explain the role of the project manager who does like the scheduling, who basically does like production work, producer work. So I learned how to schedule, budget films. And then I took lighting and compositing, and that's what I ended up doing. I also took an actual animation class. I took motion graphics. Pre-production, I tried once, and I didn't end up, it wasn't something that I ended up liking, but that's like where you draw every storyboard, and I just was not into that. I took Korean my final year because I wanted to learn because of BTS. But yeah, in college, there's so many different things that you can do, so many different classes you can take. Electives outside of your major, and honestly, if you like the major you're doing, then you'll enjoy all of your major related classes, even if it's a lot of work. Yes, that is our presentation.
Oh, we have 10 minutes left too.
Alrighty.
So if you have any questions,
this is your time to ask, guys. Like, go for it.
also, I wanted to add, like, you please start asking questions if you have any. This is just slightly related. But like Zan said, just pick up a camera and start shooting things. That makes it very, I don't know, it's just a good place. It's just a good starting place.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. Like, for example, the Namjoon film, that wasn't my first film, but I remember during summer, I literally just bought I forgot the entire name of the camera, but it's a Sony camera. It was really cheap. I got it. It was used too. And I just picked it up and started filming things. And because I knew how to edit before filming stuff, I just started editing my films, and then I uploaded them on Twitter and Vimeo. And then I also like filmed some stuff for the Namjoon and Jimin film. And yeah, like that, I really think, I know that people say that it's like that's what you have to do, and sometimes it's not as easy because I know money was an issue for me, but if you can, like, you go to like thrift stores, you can even use your phone nowadays, like iPhones are really good for filming stuff, like vlogs even, so that, like, even vlogging could be a start if you
Ali, we have 10 minutes left.
sorry. Okay, but yeah, if you have any questions, you could just ask them.
Okay.
Yeah,
so the book recommendations, so far we only recommended 2 because we use a database that gives free
let me send the
PDFs.
links in the.
So the book recommendations, they were what were they?
I'm gonna send a link. One was about dance, and one was about Korean history in a like Korean film in a historical context.
I'll make sure to post it on the film account for anyone who wants those book recommendations. Uma, there's a 3D related question.
Okay. Do you have any tips of where to start learning 3D stuff? Yes. A lot of people use Blender to start learning because it's a free software, and it's very good. And there's tons and tons and tons of tutorials on YouTube. I think that is one of the best softwares to start learning 3D work in, simply because it's free and so good. Like, it's not what the standard is in the industry, but it's a very good learning resource. To be an animator, how would you be able to work in the industry? So I think, like, the main thing with creative stuff is that people who are employing you want to see your reels. So they want to see the work that you've done. So this applies for both film and animation. If you're not going to school, then you should be working outside of school to create like short films or like little animation stuff and stuff like that. And once you put together a portfolio, then you can start applying for jobs, and they will highly consider you if you have an education in the field that you're going into. But if you have a portfolio, you would still have a very good chance of getting the job. So basically, just like, I recommend starting to follow along to tutorials and working on stuff. Also, sorry, what, Ali?
Yeah, it's because I saw a question that said my school doesn't have all those opportunities. Like what Uma and Zan said, you could try maybe connecting with people online, like on Twitter or Instagram. Like, I feel like that's what is the best thing to do, because you could get your work out there a lot more than just like a film club.
Mm-hmm.
I see a question on film and acting being closely related, because I take acting right now, and I take it with the intention of learning how to speak to actors in their own vernacular. So I would say, what do you think are the requirements and such for acting? Just overlapping your real life situations with the character that you are playing, at least was what my takeaway was with embodying a really good actor. A really good actor, a really good character. If that all makes sense. Do you have any tips to networking on the industry? Because I am shy and anxious. Honestly, same. Let your work speak for yourself.
Yeah.
But I also recommend, like, for people who are shy, like, reaching out to people online is an excellent way to avoid in-person communication while
you need to talk to them. I believe Bong takes therapy for his anxiety, despite knowing all of these people. So it's that anxiety, that shyness, it's still always going to be there, even when you're networking. So I would say, just don't let it affect your workload or your workflow.
Someone asked about the treatment of women in the 3D industry. With 3D in particular, it's like 50-50 women and men, I believe, which I think is pretty great. It's really growing to be a more equal workplace. That being said, in general, women tend to be in positions where they can be made uncomfortable at times, just as long as, they are women. It just be like that. Overall, I wouldn't say it's like a industry where it's particularly tough, but it's just like the same as anywhere else would be.
So I'm just skimming through in terms of trying to find a position on a set. Uma, do you have an answer?
What was the question?
So someone's graduating next year.
Okay. Yeah. One of the main jobs that you can do for film is you could be a production assistant. I'm pretty sure it's called.
Yeah, that is the entry level position.
It's the entry level position. So even with very, very little, like, you would basically experience, like, you can look up PA jobs, and basically it's doing stuff like bringing the actors their papers
and running around
and
yes, but in terms of finding those listings, try to look for smaller distribution companies, because they often have career tabs, and in there they'll have whatever positions are
looking open for jobs. LinkedIn is a really good place to find jobs, because you can filter for your location, and also because it's on LinkedIn, it's a little more legit seeming. Look up for production assistant jobs. And you can also literally just type in like film or production and then filter by entry level, and that should be helpful. There's lots of Facebook groups that I'm in. If you look up like film jobs and stuff like that you can join and search for jobs. I recently went through the whole job search, so that was something that I did. But one of the main things is really they're looking for people with experience, which is kind of silly, because it's like, if you don't, like, where do you start if everyone's looking for experience? But that's probably where you should be trying to create things on your own, with your friends. If you're alone, then like pick up a camera, like you can make like a travel vlog, just show that you have an eye for these things, or take stock footage and edit something together if you want to be an editor. Just like try to do, what it is that you want to do on your own. And then somebody asked about, do you need a portfolio for your resume or to get into your industry? So a resume basically is like a written out version of what you have, what your experience is, and a portfolio basically showcases that experience, especially in the case of a creative field. So usually they will ask for both. Yes.
Someone says they study medicine but has a great passion. Do you think it's a possibility that they coexist? Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Make the next hospital drama, please.
I can confirm this. I can confirm this as a medicine student, actually. So yeah, everything about organization, you can do it. And if the expert says you can, well, you can.
Also, since it looks like time is quickly running out, you can always add us on our account, and we will be happy to answer your questions, or in the Discord, wherever you feel comfortable. But yes, I'm trying to see if there's anything that we missed. is being an extra good to see a set for the first time, or is it better to intern as an assistant? Honestly,
Ooh.
if you want to see a set, like just get familiar with it, then being an extra is perfect. You can also like meet other extras, and that's a really good way of networking, just being on a set and meeting people on the set. Although if you want to work actually on a set, not as an actor, it would be better to intern to work as a production assistant, but any experience is good experience. So,
and
all right. Sorry guys, but like the clock is ticking right now. So thank you so much, guys, for coming.
Questions on Twitter.